So obviously trade deadline August the 2nd. And I do think for me, the question with the Blue Jays will be how do they approach things with respect to their pitching? Because obviously Berrios had a good outing last time out, but he has not been consistent this year. And with Kikuchi's inconsistencies and Ryu's injury, for me, Toronto has to get better starting pitching if they want to have a chance. I also think they probably need a bat. They need to be a little bit more left-handed, a little harder to game plan for. I think right now they're so right-handed and so similar for me, guys, that I think when a pitching staff or when a pitching coach is looking at this team, the game plan is quite similar from hitter to hitter. And I think that makes it a little bit easy on the other teams. There's not enough lefty bats. There's not enough, I think, thorough, really carefully constructed at bats to really make a team have to think and adjust. And I think it's become too easy of a team to face right now. And I think on the pitching side, they just have to get more quality innings. I believe still they've got the most runs allowed in the sport since the middle of June. And for me, John and Bob, if they can't find a way to address that, they're going to get passed up by the Orioles and by the Mariners here in the weeks to come.
Boy, that whole left-handed hitting thing sounds like a broken record.
It's the truth, though. They haven't been able to address it. And you look at it, John, and look at all the quality pitching they have to face in the American League East. And you've got to face a Garrett Cole. And you think about the Yankee bullpen with all their power sinkers. If you keep running out a lineup of all righties, it's hard to win. Yeah. And that's where they're at right now. They need more balance. You know, Tapia has not been the answer for them. And I think that they just need to add some guys. Unfortunately for them, though, there are some players available, whether it's Dominic Smith with the Mets is a possibility there. Of course, he has not been a part of their regular lineup. I think he could help. There's a lot of guys out there who I believe would help address the Blue Jays' needs right now.
I confess, I spend a lot less time since I abandoned newspapers looking at standings. And so over the last week or 10 days, I don't think I looked at the standings once.
Did you look today?
I looked today.
And all 5 teams in the division at 500 or above.
Well, yeah, that's true. But what's also interesting is that the Blue Jays have been on this tailspin for some considerable period of time. And yet they're game and a half back of Tampa and 1 game back of Boston. So literally that's nothing to panic over. I mean, by the weekend, they could easily be in second place in the division.
Right.
So that, I don't know whether that makes me feel more optimistic, because as I watch this team, like you, JP, I agree. If they don't get pitching, even if they make the postseason, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. Although they do have they have 3 guys that they should be able to expect to be good. They have no 4th guy that they can expect to be good. That's Stripling right now. Mm-hmm. And they don't even have a 5th guy.
Right. And to me, Bob, a couple of things. You're right that no one outside of the Yankees, their division, has really run away with this. So I think on some level they are part of this pack and will remain part of the pack until September, and they'll either win a few extra games at the end or they won't. That's going to be sort of how it all plays out. But the question that I would ask Blue Jays fans and indeed Blue Jays management about that is that what you thought you were getting into this season? What, in spring training, were you saying as a group that we have to, that guys, if we play really well, we'll be able to fight with the Mariners and the Orioles and the Guardians for the last spot? No, this team's supposed to be able to compete with the Astros and the Yankees, and they're not. Yeah. They're not even close, to be honest with you. And I think that's where they have to really address some things with their roster if they want to have a legitimate chance to beat either of those teams in even a 5-game series, because that's what it's going to take to get to the ALCS. The only way that you can play for the pennant, if your goal is to be a championship organization, the only way that you can play for the pennant is if you can find a way to beat the Yankees or the Astros in a playoff series. And right now, I don't see the Jays being especially close to doing either of those things. They need to make some moves at the deadline, and the existing cast of players has to get better. I was looking this up earlier in the week, guys. If you look at, not that wins above replacement and the metrics tell you everything, but they do tell you something. You look around, and Vlad, at last I checked, was the 11th best first baseman in baseball. and Bichette was, I think, the 10th or 11th best shortstop. Their elite players are playing well and above average, but they're not elite right now. And I think that they're waiting for someone, and Springer's been great and Kirk has been great. But aside from those two, they haven't really been having extraordinary seasons from their position player group. And when that's the case and your pitching is inconsistent, you're going to be a 500 team, basically. And that's what they've been for the last little while.
Here's one for you, and I don't know if you know the answer. When's the last time you had two teams win 110 plus games in two teams in the same league win 110 plus in the same year?
That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. We were pretty close last year with the Dodgers and the Giants. That was that was quite close, where both those teams won 100 games in the same season, was pretty in the same division, which was pretty remarkable.
Well, we're talking 100. I'm talking 110.
Yeah, that's pretty challenging. I'd have to go back and think if that's ever happened.
Yeah, may never.
But I think, to your point, with the Astros and the Yankees, they're both clearly better than the rest of the competition in their divisions. And I would say one thing to watch here carefully, and this is just geography and the way the sport is aligned, the Jays are not in a favorable spot with respect to their schedule in the second half, because you look at the Mariners, if the Angels become sellers and the Rangers become sellers, and we know the A's are sellers, the Mariners have three teams in their division that they're not non-competitive, but they're not nearly as competitive as what the Jays have to deal with. I mean, that's and oh, by the way, in the Central, for the Guardians, the White Sox have been really inconsistent. And then the Tigers and Royals are going to be sellers. So if the East, if you're a believer in Baltimore, then you believe that basically no teams in the East are going to be at least aggressive sellers at the deadline. And so you're going to keep having to face really good teams in your division for the entire balance of the season, whereas Cleveland and Seattle will benefit from teams in their division not being as strong after August 2nd.